Hey guys, good to be here for this week's Labs update. Obviously, a lot of moving parts going on right now with the Sense stuff that we announced last week, and a lot going on inside of the Oxen core team in terms of looking at potential strategies that we could use to, migrate or potentially how much that would cost as well in terms of gas fees and efficiency. So yeah, on the Oxen core side, for the last couple of weeks we have been looking at a signature type called BLS. It's been around for a while and essentially allows you to aggregate a whole bunch of signatures from a whole bunch of signing nodes into a single signature, which could be posted to a network or be representative of a whole bunch of people coming together and signing something. So we're looking at that method right now to see if we can use BLS signatures to signal events between the Oxen chain and a potential EVM chain as well. So particularly we're looking at the smart contract implementation side of that, how much gas it's going to cost to validate particular signatures that come from the Oxen chain to an EVM chain. And we're still pretty early in terms of our exploration, but this is going to give us a good idea about what some of the costs would be if we were to migrate. So yeah, on the Oxen core side, that's what we're doing. On session, obviously the big news is user config got enabled. So it enabled on the 31st at 10 a.m. Australian time, which for me is about 36 hours ago or something like that. Initial signs look very promising in terms of user config syncing seems to be working fine. There is a few user reported issues which we're looking into now, and that we'll continue to take feedback over the coming weeks to see if there's anything that comes up. So yeah, that's basically what we're working on the user config side, but we're also looking at disappearing messages. They have now been, or we're in the process of merging those into Android now. It's already been done on iOS, and that's going to be the next kind of major feature that we release. And there's also some work on push notifications as well, which will hopefully be a release coming in the future to improve push notifications. So lots happening on the session side and lots that is enabled too. On the LibLokinet side, we are essentially continuing our work on libquick. So last week I told you that we got datagram support for libquick, which is really important for streaming certain types of data, or the majority of data that we were sending over LibLokinet. This week we built a little speed test tool. So we had built a speed test tool last week, and that was to test streams. Now we're testing that with datagrams as well, and the results are super promising. We're essentially maxing out network connections in terms of the maximum allowable speed that network connection, is fitted for. So that's fantastic that we're at that point, and that building that speed test tool also helped us find a few issues in our implementation too, which we fixed up now. So the next big thing on LibLokinet is basically implementing libquick into LibLokinet, and we're getting cracking with that now. So yeah, that just about wraps the three primary projects. There's also been a bit of work on libsession too. We've started implementing closed groups into libsession, or part of closed groups into libsession. So hoping that will make the way clear for clients to be able to implement the new closed group implementation, which is coming down the line too. As always, get engaged. There's some ORCs up there about the Cent migration, so I'd love to hear your opinion. If you go to the GitHub and search up the Oxen request for comment, you'll be able to find it there. And yeah, love hearing from you guys, and this will be a very kind of large transitionary period, so it's important we get the community involved here. Anyway, thanks guys for listening, and I'll hand it over to Josh, I think. Alright, thanks.
Hey everybody, Josh here. I'm here for another weekly labs update for you guys. And last week was literally a pivotal week for us. So we dropped into the community latest ORC 8, which basically kind of shows our plans for the future and what's going on. And so since then, we've just been compiling and collecting all your feedback for it, because it still is pretty early in development stages, like the ORC. So all of your feedback is going into decision making for this thing. But essentially, the overview for those of you who haven't seen ORC 8, the high level overview, is essentially a proposal talking about transitioning Oxen into the session network token or cent. Now the name is still, early days. It still could very much change, but the idea is to essentially bring everything under this one encapsulating Session brand. So to leverage the brand capital that Session, our most successful brand, has, and bringing a whole suite of applications in under that. So think of like Google or Proton Mail, where they have like one overarching brand, and they bring all of their applications, all of their products under the one overarching brand. That's essentially kind of, there's many parts to it, but that from the marketing side of things, that's essentially like the big part of this. So that being said, bringing everything into the overarching brand and it being early days, I mean, it still very well could go the way of calling it maybe Session Token, just to make that brand association extremely clear. But again, it's still early days. We're still kind of figuring it out, and we're looking at your guys' feedback to figure out the best way to go as well. Speaking about it being early days, it's probably good to mention the reason why the ORC has come out without being fully thought out completely is in part to do with KuCoin. So last week we kind of thought everything between KuCoin and us were really good. I mean, we obviously knew and could see that KuCoin were going in the direction of moving away from privacy, which also kind of helped us spark this idea in the first place, moving to a layer 2, getting away from all of the privacy regulations being hit. So we could see it moving in that direction, but we'd had a lot of chats with KuCoin, really recent chats as well, where they had explained to us basically everything was all good. And then last week, we got put on their special treatment list, and then pretty promptly after that, delisted, which kind of went against everything that we had been talking about them with, and it was very much out of our hands in that regard. So that prompted us to kind of have to share this stuff with you guys earlier than we were ready to share it. On the one hand, it's really good because we've been working with this stuff, and it's good to get you guys, the community, to give us feedback on things. But on the other hand, there's still not a lot of things that we've like fully figured out for it, and it wasn't the most ideal time to be able to drop it to you guys. Like, obviously you don't want to pair it with negative news at the same time. It would have been great to just kind of give this to you on its own merits. But it actually leaves us in a good position right now for us to all kind of build it up and work together and make this thing as strong as it can be. So that's essentially what we've been doing last week. Last week was all about us getting all of this together, putting it out to the community, creating content, creating information to you guys, and also compiling the feedback. And we're actually collecting a list of questions at the moment, and we'll be doing a video answering all those questions really soon. But yeah, that's essentially it. That's kind of the high level overview of what happened. Again, if you haven't seen it, I very much think you should go check out the ORC. We'll probably put a link to that in the description. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on our front. And on top of that, we've just been continuing to build up the plans. So we're just going to keep doing that, going to keep collecting your feedback, going to keep building out these plans. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.